Madam Secretary, I will match my record against yours any day of the week.
Essentially, it's my view that the leadership of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are tied to big money interests, and that neither of these parties will ever represent the people in this country who are demanding the real changes that have to take place. I think also that many people in Vermont know that I and many of us in the progressive movement here in Burlington are strongly supporting and actively working for Jesse Jackson to become the next president of the United States. We are supporting Jackson because he, uniquely and alone of the major party candidates, has shown the courage to tackle the most important and basic issues facing working class America, poor people, elderly people, environmentalists, peace activists, women, and America's minorities.
Failing an industrial and manufacturing base which is rapidly becoming second or third rate compared to Japan and Europe, it is my belief that a war in the Persian Gulf now, an absolutely unnecessary war, would be a terrible mistake that this country would regret for decades to come.
The same people that would vote to cut defense $177 billion, the same ones that would put homos in the military.
But I thought I heard the gentleman a moment ago say something, quote unquote, about homos in the military. Was I right in hearing that expression?
Absolutely. Putting homosexuals in the military.
You said something about homos in the military. Was the gentleman referring to the many thousands and thousands of gay people who have put their lives on the line in countless wars defending this country? Was that the group of people that the gentleman was referring to?
I'm talking about the military. People in the military do not support.
That's not what we were talking about. You used the word homos in the military. You have insulted thousands of men and women who have put their lives on the line.
Are you concerned about such mergers as Travelers Insurance and Citicorp when they form a company with assets of almost $700 billion, 140 times as large as long-term capital? What happens if they fail? Who in God's name is going to bail them out? Are you concerned about that?
First of all, let me just say that we don't consider that, we do not believe that in the event that it turns out that a substantial institution fails, that they should be bailed out. Our notion would not be the question of perceiving that an institution is too big to fail and that therefore gets government support.
What is the proper relationship, what should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
I think you just don't know what's going on in the real world. And I would urge you, come with me to Vermont, meet real people. The country clubs and the cocktail parties are not real America. The millionaires and billionaires are the exception to the rule. You talk about an improving economy while we have lost 3 million private sector jobs in the last 2 years. Long-term unemployment has more than tripled. Unemployment is higher than it has been since 1994. We have a $4 trillion national debt. 1.4 million Americans have lost their health insurance. Millions of seniors can't afford prescription drugs. Middle-class families can't send their kids to college because they don't have the money to do that. Bankruptcy cases have increased by a record-breaking 23%. Business investment is at its lowest level in more than 50 years. CEOs make more than 500 times of what their workers make. The middle class is shrinking. We have the greatest gap between the rich and the poor of any industrialized nation, and this is an economy that is improving. I hate to see what would happen if our economy was sinking.
I am proud to announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America.
Let's
$7
stop
right
there.
This is unprecedented.
Gene Robinson, unprecedented what Bernie Sanders is doing.
the grassroots level of support that Bernie Sanders is getting, the young people that he's getting, and the fact that if they want to pay, unlike a lot of Hillary's donors who are already maxed out, if they want to pay Bernie Sanders another $27 next week and another $27 the next week, they would be running away with the Democratic nomination right now.
Well, possibly because he has that sort of irreducible nub of support, or seems to have that.
I understand he runs a one-man information bureau about me. I was a Goldwater girl. I mean, really, we used to wear, you know, little banners which said Goldwater girl.
Senator Goldwater, we have another question here from some of our listeners. You voted against the Civil Rights Act in 1964.
Since I was vocally a Republican and for Senator Goldwater, and one of my very
I have no question that had I voted for that bill, I might have softened some of the Negro opposition to my candidacy.
It's a bill that's like a vampire. It will not die, right? There's a lot of money behind it. And
bill her husband had vetoed.
Her husband had vetoed it very much at her urging.
And?
She voted in favor of it.
Why?
As Senator Clinton, the pressures are very different. It's a well-financed industry. You know, a lot of people don't realize that the industry that gave the most money to Washington over the past few years was not the oil industry, was not pharmaceuticals. It was consumer credit products. Those are the people, the credit card companies have been giving money, and they have influence.
Vice President Joe Biden raised some eyebrows by praising Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, seemingly at the expense of Hillary Clinton.
Why is she having trouble?
Well, I think that Bernie is speaking to a yearning that is deep and real, and he has credibility on it. And that is the absolute enormous concentration of wealth in a small group of people, with the middle class now being able to be shown.
Hillary's talking about that as well.
Well, it's relatively new for Hillary to talk about that. Hillary's focus has been on other things up to now, and that's been Bernie's. No one questions Bernie's authenticity on those issues.
Oh, I'm a Pan-Africanist gangster rapper. Fuckery to say that, because they're working class men that are doing the bidding of a higher class of people that don't give a shit about the people that they're policing. You know, I just like to say that on the behalf of families of police officers. You know, politicians, if you love cops, you can do a fucking better job. That's it.
I have to tell you that in my heart of hearts, I truly believe that Senator Bernie Sanders is the right man to lead this country.
In the most stunning upset of the presidential campaign to date, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders defeated Hillary Clinton in the Michigan primary. Sanders won 50% of the vote to Clinton's 48%. During the campaign, Sanders focused heavily on his opposition to what he called disastrous trade deals.
But today you reached a new low, I think, by suggesting that manufacturing in America doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where the product is produced.
Opinion polls had projected Clinton would easily win the state by as much as 20%. On Tuesday afternoon, Nate Silver's popular polling site 538.com predicted Clinton had a greater than 99% chance of winning the Michigan primary. But late last night, Silver wrote that Michigan would, quote, count as among the greatest polling errors in primary history.
You were with him in Michigan this weekend.
No, it's true. We had no idea that we would have this kind of upset. We knew that we were going to fight based on integrity, based on principle. We know that we're in a moment where we got a neo-fascist in the making with Trump. We're trying to bring neoliberalism to a close. We got a neo-populist, a genuine populist in Sanders, and Hillary Clinton is a neoliberal, but she poses as a progressive. And so there's a sense in which we know that Bernie Sanders is the one to beat Trump. And that's crucial because we're at a very, very deep moment in this country. It's sad that Black America is not waking up in the way in which we should. We've got a spiritual rot and a moral cowardice in our neoliberal Black political class and our neoliberal Black intelligentsia who don't want to tell the truth about the underside of the Hillary Clinton campaign. And the underside really has to do with not just the Clinton machine and all of its corruptions and so forth, but more importantly, the policies, the trade policies, the mass incarceration regime, the deregulating of the banks and so forth. But Brother Bernie's hitting his head on. It's difficult for Hillary to somehow act as if she's such a populist when she's been a centrist for so very long.